His name's Izzy, but I call him Iz. And man, just friends from Frostburg. Had an opportunity to really just see you kind of grow as you was a photographer back in the G. I remember all of that. And now you have your own podcast where called Purple Rain. And it's just really been blowing up. I love seeing your takes and I love seeing what you do. Welcome to the podcast. Is how you doing, man?
I'm good, man, and I appreciate you having me on. It is good to talk to you. I definitely agree with that. Likewise, man. You know, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm excited. All right. So usually whenever I start the podcast, I love to just kind of capture people's stories. Just to give an overview of like just what your journey was, where you started, where you are now, and then maybe where you hoping to go.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of journey, like you mentioned, we met at Frostburg, friends from college and whatnot. That was kind of like the beginning, I would say, of my journey. Me finding myself. People say like college is the best 4 years of your life. I think that's definitely true, for
Facts.
sure,
Facts. Facts.
because you
Huh?
you just learn so much about yourself on top of what you learn in the classes. And I learned so much about myself outside of class that, like, I don't mind paying for college, if that makes sense. I don't
Mm,
mind the back end loan payments because in a lot of ways it made me who I am today.
mhm.
That's why I really started like with my creativity. Like you said, I was a photographer. I still do photography. I do videography.
Oh, that's
That's
dope. Yeah.
actually what I, yeah, that's actually what I went to school for. I went to school
Oh,
for
okay.
videography, video production, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So just being into that sort of, kind of niche for a while, I just kind of started to scratch my creative itch a little bit more and more. Started like kind of delving into like podcasts. Like, okay, what if I did like this radio sort of thing,
Mhm.
a couple years later. Well, there's a lot of stuff in between, to be honest with you. Let me give you the Cliff Notes version, and we can get on with the damn thing. But like, so after college, right, I stopped taking so many pictures and videos, things like that.
Mm.
Slowing down. And then COVID hit, right, a little while later, and I was really not taking any pictures. Then nobody was even going outside, so I was like, I got to do something. I'm out of work, so
Mm.
what am I gonna do? So what I actually did was I actually started a clothing business in the meantime,
Mm.
and I just
Okay.
kind of did that. I got like a couple $1,000s in sales the first couple months. It was pretty successful, and just something to keep me busy.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing about me. Like, I can't go an extended period of time without kind of scratching that creative itch. Like, it's always just been in me ever since college, I would say. And even since I was in like middle school, I was always wanting to do
Oh,
something creative. Yeah. Had YouTube channels and whatnot. I've probably had like a total of maybe 7, 8 YouTube channels, to be
oh,
honest with you, in my lifetime.
that is dope. I like back and see like these as creative interests, but back then I don't know why it just never seemed like it was an endeavor. It just always seemed like I don't know, it was something that people did, but I never associated with being creative. Even I don't know, maybe just before you're 25, everybody's brain is on not making sense. And then after
For sure.
25,
Yeah.
I feel like that's when everything clicks. But that's really dope. So you shared that you had stopped kind of doing photography and videography once you graduated college. I just want to know what were some reasons why you kind of slowed down on creating.
Well, there was a couple different reasons, I would say. Um, the main reason being that I kind of lost a little bit of motivation. So the person who got me into photography in the first place, his name was Andrew Burns. A lot of people who went
Mhm.
to Frostburg knew who he was.
Yeah.
He passed away in 2017, and after that, I kind of lost a lot of motivation for a lot of different stuff. And it took a while to kind of like bring me back to where I needed to be to start kind of creating again. And to be honest with you, to this day, I'm still not all the way right from that because it was just
Yeah.
crazy
It
situation.
was a
But yeah,
shock.
that's probably why. Yeah.
It was a shock. I um it's just thinking about like people from Frostburg and um it's like the black community out there was just so like everybody really knew each other. It was so intimate. So like when one something like that happened, it affected everybody. Like even if you didn't personally have a connection, you really felt that loss and that grief. And just going through grief at that time as well. Because the year before that, or maybe it was a couple years before that, Latif had passed away. So I
Right.
just
Yeah.
really empathize with just like the lack of motivation, the lack of creative endeavors, the lack of wanting to do anything, right? Um,
Yeah.
it really just shows how mortal life is. So, you know, I guess I do want to just take a time to remember him though, because I just think that's important. So, what's your most like fond memory that you have, and then we'll kind of jump back
Oh
into
man, most fond memory,
yeah.
man. We had some crazy nights, man. I'll put this out on the air, man. I'll put this on the record. I really don't want to, but
Hey,
like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
let's do
So
it.
there was this one night where we was out partying, whatever, and like, I get too many beers deep, too many shots, whatever I was taking that night, right? And so apparently we leave whatever party and we go back to his crib, right? And
Mm,
when I say leave party, I mean like he had to like carry me type shit because like I was, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
intoxicated to
I
that
feel
level.
that.
We get back to, his crib, and like I guess I was just supposed to sober up there for a little bit before I went home, whatever. Bro, and this is like really embarrassing. Like
It's a safe space.
when I tell you, I don't remember any of this, but apparently like I had to go take a piss, right?
Mhm.
And like I was in his room, but thought I was in the bathroom, right? And yeah, you know what happened next. So that happened, right? And like he came in and caught me, bro. I'm telling you, bro, like you can't get any like closer to somebody than
Oh
after that he caught me. And so like
man.
he started geeking out because he was a little lit too, we was both lit.
Yeah,
So
like
we started like, going at it, whatever, like woo woo woo, start wrestling, whatever. Long story short, like we get shit calmed down. I think his roommate popped in the room with a
oh,
gun, right? Thinking some shit was going down. Right. I'm not
oh.
gonna disclose no names, nothing
Yeah,
like
well, you
that.
don't got
But
you
like,
ain't
yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, shit was crazy though, bro. Like I just woke up the next day and like I was at home, right? And I walked back down to his crib because I think I forgot like my backpack there, something like that. And like I'm walking up to his front door. He opened the door. I'm walking up. I'm like, "What's good, bro?" And
He
he
probably
like,
was like, bro, I really want to
he
clap.
like, bro, bro,
Oh
that was probably
man.
definitely the most fun like memory. I mean, we had a lot of different memories. That was the craziest one, the funniest one by far. We had a lot of
Oh,
fun memories though. Like, in college, like you be broke, you starving together, you trying to scrape up money for a next meal,
man.
shit like that. Like we would be
Whew.
together on, those are definitely some memories.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is if you went to Frostburg, if you did not go to Frostburg, you're not out drinking us. You're not out drinking nobody that
Period.
went to the bar. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry. This is just
definitely
fact.
not. Yeah.
Yo, that's so dope. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I've never shared that on a podcast or like live
Right.
ever. Like never, bro.
Uh, we got the gems. We got the gems. So listen, you've gone through so much just in your creative endeavors, right? Always
Mhm.
staying curious, scratching the itch, and now you're kind of doing podcasts. And so, what's been some highlights between just when you started your creative journey and where you are now? Just what's some moments that you can reflect back on and just really be proud?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple that now that you asked me the question, I'm really thankful. I'm sitting here like really thankful for like where I am and like how far that I've come, at least relative to where, I thought I would be,
Mm,
at this stage in the
mm,
game. But
mm,
I would say a couple different moments in terms of like I mentioned, like my clothing line. I was doing that for a while, which I'm still doing. It's just like in the works. Like, you can't do everything at once. But
Facts.
that when I hit like a couple $1,000s in sales over COVID, that was a really high moment for me because like, I just kind of brought it out of scratch. I made it from scratch, just kind of did it out
Mm,
of nowhere and it just worked. So that, and then I would also say with the podcast that I have now, the Purple Rain podcast, and shout out to my co-host on that podcast. His
come
name is
on.
Alex. Yeah, man, love the guy. He's really cool. Uh, that has been probably my most successful endeavor, like that
Mm.
I've had. Like we've been doing it for, I would say, going on 2 years now.
Oh, that's dope.
Going on 2 years now. We've
Oh,
got like a couple thousand subscribers, like a pushing 3,000. And this is on YouTube. It's like it's kind of hard to build on YouTube. And like I've been
yeah.
trying to do it for years. Like I said, I've had like at least 7, 8 YouTube channels over my life. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is probably my most successful one. It's the most genuine. It's my baby, for lack
Yeah,
of better
yeah.
words. And like, there's
No,
been a lot that's
facts.
happened with it. Like we're partnered with Google. We're partnering with Google,
Mm.
so we get donations from our fans, which is really cool. And then we also are sponsored by Manscaped. The
Oh,
yeah, I actually have the men's
oh,
personal hygiene.
so dope. Oh
So they send us
man,
free products, yeah, just to promote them on our show. So it's been
that
really cool.
is
Those are a couple
so
moments, yeah,
dope.
I'm really proud of.
Oh my goodness. Like, yo, yo, on TikTok it'll be like Lightning McQueen. That's how I feel right now. Like that is so dope. That is
I
so cool.
appreciate it. Yeah.
So I know it wasn't always sweet. So like, what are some? Because I mean, you shared how hard it is to go to get up there on YouTube, but you got a lot of skin in the game, right? So, what were just some like roadblocks, some tough moments that you was looking like, man, it's not gonna be it.
Well, I mean, definitely in the beginning, because remember, like I was saying before, it's all about consistency. And like
Mhm,
in the beginning, you're not going to get that return on investment. Like the energy
mhm,
that you're putting into it, you're not going to see the return in like views and engagement immediately. You're just not.
mhm, mhm,
You have to consistently put your and pour your time and energy into this thing in order for it to grow in front of you. So like in the beginning, I would have some videos that, maybe this video I put out has like a couple hundred views in the first day, and I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty good,
mhm.
for YouTube or whatever. And
Yeah.
then the next video I put out, it has like 20 views, in like a couple of days. And I'm like, well, damn, like, what am
Yo,
I doing
that's
wrong?
yeah.
It's that sort of thing that will really discourage you. And I feel like
Yeah.
it discourages 9 to 10 people. Like,
Mm,
that's like, it's really demoralizing when you put in like a
yeah.
whole day's worth of time. Most people don't even know how to edit videos, edit pictures. They're learning for the first time, watching
Yeah.
YouTube videos and taking hours and days at a time to do it. And then they only get like 20 to 30 views, 40 views
Mhm.
on it. And then they're like, you know what? That wasn't even
Yeah.
worth it. Let me just give
Yeah.
up. And that was the biggest roadblock. So just pushing through that.
Man, how, like, all right, did you have some tangible ways that you pushed through it? Excuse me, because I like, some people say like I try not to look at the views, but like that's
You look
not
at them. Yeah.
impossible, but yeah, it's cap, a little bit. So like, did you have some really concrete ways of how you were able to still keep going, even though, it seemed up and down with the viewership?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it was really just more so asking myself like what I really wanted out of this. Like if I wanted to actually make it into something bigger to where I could take it to the next level, then like I'm gonna have to be consistent because I know that it's a very saturated market. Like there's
Mhm.
millions of people trying to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I have to do what everybody else is not willing to do, and that's
Mm.
stay consistent, and just stay tried and true. But
Yeah.
I would say the more tangible thing though to
Mm.
me is just making a conscious effort up here. You
Mm.
know, like if you say you're gonna do something, if you say you're gonna post something, then just do it. Post it.
Mm.
Like just get it out.
Yeah.
Like because once you start stacking those wins, you start stacking those, that progress. Like
Yeah.
you just want to keep it up. So that's yeah.
Yo, two things come to me. First, ditto everything you just shared. And the second thing is it's so funny how like in our minds, right, when we see, let's say you see one post of 100 views, then you see another post of 20 views, we don't count it as you just had 120 views. Instead we count it as, oh damn, only 20 people saw this versus
Right.
only 100 people saw this, and you're kind of comparing, like doing this either or of which what
Yeah.
when you want to take. But I also just want to add that because I think that can be a really positive way to look at it too, right? You may have had 120 people that have consumed something that you created. And that feels so much better than saying, "Oh, only 20 people have watched something that I
Yeah,
put a
yeah.
lot of
I,
time
I, s- I
into."
say that same exact thing a whole lot, man. I
Mhm.
really do. And like the way I like to put it is like, oh yeah, I only had like what 20, 30, 40 views like you were saying, but like listen, imagine if you were sitting in the room that you're sitting in right now and 40
And
people were
40
standing
people.
in front of you.
Woo.
You
Yeah.
would be like sweating,
Yeah.
if you had to get up there and perform,
Yeah.
So it's like think about it in that way and like, you can just wow. You're right. You're right.
Listen, when we were talking earlier, right? About it, and I'm gonna ask you about the amount of things you invest in a second. But we're talking earlier about, just being on social media and all that. And I was like, I post my son on there every so often, but
Yeah.
I've had posts that have had over like 500,000 engagements. That's
Hmm.
a stadium. Like when
Yeah,
you really think
yeah,
about, like, 20 people, 40 people, like you mentioned, that's a classroom.
right,
That is a group of people that you're almost like presenting to,
yeah.
you're presenting information to. So that's just a really practical way too of kind of viewing this. And so I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time also talking about the type of investment, right? And I'll just be very transparent with you. Sean Collective was also created to help high school students really think about what it takes to actually reap rewards, to actually get to the place where their passion is paying them to live.
Yeah.
And one of the things I don't think we talk about enough is investment, right? So, I mean, if you can't put numbers to it, that'd be cool, but you don't have to. All right. But just overall, when you think about maybe the money, time, energy, what have you really invested to get to the place you are now?
So for me, I think you mentioned money and time
Mhm.
and energy. That's a
Mm.
great addition as well. I think that, for us millennials on down, so Gen Z and all of them, I think that we have an issue with exchanging a lot of our time for money, a lot of our time and energy for money. Because we want to be able to enjoy, we want to be able to, reap the rewards of, what we sow. So for me, what I invest are ideas to make my ideas come to life more efficiently.
Mm.
And to make that make more sense, so let me put it like this in layman's terms, right? I can be lazy sometimes.
Mm.
So if I know that I'm lazy, but I also know that I have a goal that I want to accomplish, it doesn't matter that I'm lazy because I'm going to set up the steps that it
Mm.
takes to get to that goal, no matter what, And I'm going to find, since I am lazy, I'm going to find a very easy and efficient way to
Efficient
get
way
all of
to
those
get to that.
tasks done, so I
Mm.
can have as much time for myself as possible, so I can still enjoy my life, because I feel like it's all about that balance. So I guess kind of delving deeper into that, have you ever heard of I'm sure you have. Have you ever like heard about like artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
AI. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. So using AI, right? Like that's something that I've been using for the past like couple months now. I'm able to get things done that would normally take me a couple hours. I can
Mm.
do it in a couple minutes or a couple seconds. So just doing that and trying to leverage different I guess you could say assets that I have, um in order to help myself. So that's basically what like I do in terms of like investing. I try to just make my processes as efficient as possible. Yeah.
Mm, mm. Squirrel moment. Are you afraid of AI?
No. And the only reason I say no is because I know it's inevitable. I know it's
Mm.
coming, and I know that like I know we've watched a lot of movies. There's been a lot of conspiracies, things like that over the years, and it makes sense. Like the direction it's heading, it's like it could possibly take over. But
You
I
you
mean,
you you know what I think?
go ahead, go
You know
ahead.
what
Yeah,
the direction it looks like it's heading?
yeah,
It looks like something that white people created. And I know that sounds really crazy. Like, I mean, it's not really crazy, but I really don't think it would be as bad if there were more black people that understood how to create AI, how to use it, how to leverage it,
yeah,
how to actually be in the creating process of a system like AI. And I say that because I think just people of color in general have had to always think about the collective mindset. And I've seen a lot of videos that ask the same question I've asked, but it was kind of like a tone of fear mongering a little bit, right? Like, you should be scared of AI. You should be. It can
yeah,
take over everything, right? And it's like, I think you only think like that if your natural disposition is to take over everything. If your natural disposition is to displace, if your natural disposition is to um kind of make people obsolete, right? And I'm
right.
saying like all white, like it's a very blanket statement to really just mean white supremacy and how people use white supremacy in the creation of things, unbiased, right? When you don't check the bias and you create something, ultimately can lead to us all being doomed. All right, that was just a squirrel. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but you probably
No, I mean, I think you said a lot of good stuff right there. One thing that I definitely took home with me was the fact that, there should be a lot more people of color who understand, AI and know how to use it and know how to leverage it. Because if you don't, in this day and age, you're going to become
yeah,
vulnerable at
you're
some point,
done.
and
You're
you don't want that. It's like not choosing to dive into artificial intelligence and learning how to use it. It's kind of like a 70-year-old saying, like, you know what, I want nothing to do with cell phones. Don't
right.
even, nothing technology related. Don't even throw it my way. You're
Yeah,
vulnerable,
yeah.
in this day and age if you don't understand it. So I get you. Yeah,
No facts.
from mindset, but it does make sense though,
Yeah.
because I feel like Gen Z, they're all about kind of being different and being unique in a way. And since, like you said, you made a good point, they kind of grew up in the social media world.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different for them. It's all they know.
Yeah. I might be I'm also I think just positive framing that I hope Gen Z does, right? Because they might mock the early 2000s, the early 2000s cell phones, Motorola's and all that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um and I think if they like that'd be dope. That'd be dope. If they really do that, like bring that back for like a year, that'd be really cool. Do I see them
But like,
doing
it's not going to happen though.
it? You don't think it's gonna
Like,
happen? You think
Apple's
it's just
not
gonna
going
keep
for it.
going further and
Samsung's
further
not
and
going for
further?
it. No, yeah, of course. That's why we have TikTok, right?
I don't know. I
What do you
there's
what do
a
you think about TikTok? I mean, you utilize the
that's
platform.
true. That's true.
So, but at the same time, it does kind of have like our kids in a chokehold, right?
Mm,
So,
got
like,
me
with
in
that
the
being said,
chokehold. I
how do
can't even
they?
lie to
You can't
you.
even
I
lie.
can't even
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, me too. At certain times, like, it's
Yeah.
it's it's addicting
Mm,
almost. Like, it's just constant information, entertainment, all just baked and intertwined into one little feed that you just got to scroll up and down on. It's just too convenient, you
yeah.
know? And I don't really see how the kids of today, like you said, they're growing up in this time, from
Dang.
4 or 5 years old, they're scrolling on TikTok,
Yeah.
like their brains are being turned into what they call mush,
Yeah.
it's,
Dang, you don't think they stand a
it's tough.
chance? You don't think they stand a
It's,
chance?
they
They
do
fight an
stand a chance. They do
uphill
stand a
battle.
chance, but it's an uphill battle for sure. But it's definitely about the parenting as well.
Mm,
Like, and it's even harder now. It's even harder now because there's just so much more access. So,
yeah.
like, I commend you and like what you are getting ready to go through as well,
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
that's how do you even plan on.
Wow.
I don't want to get into all of your stuff, but
Yeah,
like,
no.
where are you at with
Okay.
that? Where are you at with that?
Where
Because
am I
it's
at
just
with it?
interesting to me. Yeah.
That was wow, great question. I am so I told you the way I want to interact with social media in like the next 5 years is I do want to start pivoting off. I actually do not want to be the primary person controlling my social media. I would much rather pay somebody to do that while I get the opportunity to really unplug and be present with my family, right?
Yeah.
I think what I'm thinking about with my son is I do want him to learn how to use technology, but I also want him to have a dual understanding of how to live life without technology. So that might look like, intentional just being really intentional about like math, like something really simple but like pen and paper math, right? To really
Hmm.
kind of um, understand how to then manipulate technology to help you with a skill you already have. And I actually do agree with you. I don't think AI should be something that you fear because what's going to happen, I believe, is that the people who are really um, great at their crafts are the ones that are going to be able to manipulate AI to make it do what they need it to do. If you
Yeah.
aren't perfecting your craft, if you're not taking the time to study, if you're not taking the time to actually become a master at whatever it is you do, whether it's AI or not, you're not going to know how to manipulate it in order to get the best results or in order to push that idea forward or push that creative space forward, right? You're just going to be
Right.
kind of
No,
um,
that's a really good point, though. That's a
yeah,
really good point because in order to manipulate that, you have to be able to articulate whatever
exactly.
it is that you want out
Ex-
of it. So, and that is something that our community definitely has struggled with over years. The Black and brown community is hard, like education, things like that, kind of being
Yeah,
held down over the years. We don't really have, a lot of us don't have all the tools it takes to be able to manipulate such an advanced technology as such. So
exactly.
it's easier to be afraid of it almost. So
Exactly. And it's
yeah,
and that's why I've had full trust. If you are perfecting your craft, for example, right? We're podcasters. For me, I actively learn, okay, what are some really good questions to ask? How do you keep the energy, go like I'm actively studying how to do these things and really become efficient at it, right? So when it comes down to using AI to maybe I don't know, help me come up with a script or help me come up with potential questions I can ask. I can still make it my own, right? I won't sound
right.
like a robot. I think that's what I'm also like kind of scared of. I'm scared of people regurgitating information that like and not knowing the source of it, right? Like
Yeah.
um I don't know. I think I can go on it for days, but I'm just also like I'm putting my teacher hat on and I'm like these are the potential dangers that almost I think just naturally people just don't consider. They don't consider the full scope of whatever it is that they do, all the implications that it could have, and they just
Right.
kind of do. And it's just like, man, if you just take a second to think about it, you would save yourself a lifetime of headaches. So yeah, I could kind of nerd out on this for a little bit. So let's kind of let's kind of go back a little bit. So you talked a lot
Okay.
about uh your creative endeavors. You talked a lot about what it takes to actually invest. You talked some about what are some potential roadblocks. Where's your goals now? What are you trying to and hoping to achieve either A with your podcast or just creatively? What are you hoping to achieve next?
Oh man. I I think that honestly, I'm not gonna say that I don't have goals,
Mm,
but I do know that I just want to keep taking steps forward. And wherever it leads me, I'm okay with that. As long as I'm taking positive steps. And I feel like to this point, I have, ever since I started, I never really had like a set goal, like, oh, I want to have 100,000 subscribers, or I want to be, sponsored by this, that, and the third. Or I never really had those type of aspirations. I just knew that I wanted to start the channel. Okay, I wanted to post
mm,
a video. I wanted to keep posting videos. I want to gain an audience. I've done that. I wanted to like I'm just gonna keep going and like I just with that being said, I don't necessarily have like any like a 5-year plan or something like
yeah.
that. Now, if I had to speak to it, I would love for, my show to get picked up by a major network and, be
Mm,
on there and talking to all sorts of analysts and athletes and whatnot. And we've actually had the opportunity to talk to a couple of athletes on our show and
oh,
and coaches as well,
talk
which is
about
pretty
it.
cool because
Talk about it.
we cover the Baltimore Ravens on our podcast. So
Oh, come on.
we had our starting linebacker on the show. Actually, the past two off seasons, he's like actually a friend of the show. Like
Oh,
we
that's
we
so
can chat it up
dope.
with him and everything. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. So just the people I've been able to meet and the opportunities that I've been met with over the years, the past 2 years, it's definitely been a blessing in terms of my goals. Like I said, I don't necessarily have any concrete goals, but I would say that I just want to keep taking steps forward.
Yeah. Was it always like that? Like, did you always find yourself kind of just moving, expecting the best, or did it come to a point where you just was like, man, I don't even care what it like was it always like that, or did you just get here?
Well, it kind of got to a point where I just didn't care.
Mm,
And when I say that, I don't want it to seem like a negative thing, but it got to a point where like it was just on autopilot, and I was able to do it as like it was habit, and I knew
mm,
that that was good. I knew that that was a net positive for me because, like at the end of the day, if you're doing something, if you start something new, right, and you do it on day 1 out of 30, and then you don't do it again until day 17 out of 30,
mm.
you're not in the habit of doing it. So every time you do it, it's going to feel like its own individual and isolated thing, you
Come
know?
on.
So when you get into a habit of, and they say it takes 28 days to form a habit, if you stay consistent for about 28 days, your brain will automatically start to function like, hey, I need to do this. I'm programmed to do this. So let's just go do it. Let's not make
Mm,
excuses about it. Let's just go do it because
mm.
that's what we're used to doing. So that's kind of like what I did in order to, I guess you could say, get to where I'm at now. Just kind of getting it to. I just had to lock in. I just had to lock in. Ignore
Yeah,
my excuses, for those 28 days until it got to be ingrained in me, and I just started going from there.
that is dope. That's dope. Wow. It's really interesting because for me, every time I try to work out and be 6'10", 250, not for real. Every time it feels like its own isolated event, and I just feel like, why was this harder than the last time, or just as hard? It's supposed to be a little bit easier, but we ain't gonna talk
Yeah.
too much about that. What I do want to know is, since you talk so much about sports and you talk about the Ravens, I don't know why, but I'm gonna go there. I want to know, what is your sports hot take?
Sports hot take. Oh
Yeah.
man, I honestly, let me think. My most recent sports hot take. It actually has to do with the NBA. I mean,
Okay.
NBA player I saw on right now. Joel Embiid happens to
Mm,
play for the Philadelphia 76ers, which just happens to be my favorite NBA team.
same.
And it seems to be really.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Listen,
nice.
Allen
Yeah,
Iverson was my favorite player. So right now,
same.
LeBron's my favorite player, but my favorite team was the Sixers because of Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. That's the whole reason I'm a Sixers fan. AI,
Oh, that's
you know.
dope.
So to this day, I still watch the Sixers, and Joel Embiid is, MVP this year of the league, and
Hmm.
the Sixers just got bounced out of the playoffs. And this is like the third or fourth season in a row that's happened with him at the forefront of our roster.
Mm.
So with that being said, like it's not working. I think it's time to blow it up. I think it's time to trade Joel Embiid. A lot of people will call me absolutely nuts for this, right? But
Okay.
I think it's time to get him out of town, get him for like a haul of picks, other players, something, because obviously what's happening in Philly right now is not working. The big man, he wants to be, he's the
Right.
big man, right? He's the biggest player on the floor at
Hmm.
any given moment,
Mm.
but does not want to play bully ball, does not want to dominate. Instead, he wants to be Kobe Bryant. Instead, he wants to shoot fadeaways. That's my issue.
Yeah,
You have the
yeah.
physical advantage. He doesn't use it. So get rid of
Mm.
Embiid. I don't think he's really an MVP. Um, I think other guys deserve it over him, but that's my sports hot take.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That was fresh off the press. That was hot.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been having some feelings, some emotions about that
Yeah,
for a
yeah, I
while now.
see. And you
So
were
yeah.
speaking from a place of like, nah, I didn't talked about this offline.
Yeah, for
Really?
sure.
You know,
For sure.
I do know, I know a little bit about, sports to, still keep it relevant. But I saw Gilbert Arenas share that basically he's too big. Like, he's too big, or he's not in shape, better yet. And he was sharing how basically his shape or his body is meant to cap at the second round in the playoffs, and his body's not meant to keep going on to the finals, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sharing that to really kind of gain your perspective, to see how you feel about that.
No, I mean that's absolutely right as well. I mean, a big part of, the problem or the issue that we've had with Joel Embiid over the years is that he can't stay healthy,
Mm,
later in the season. You play 82 games in the regular season, and then you
mm.
have to play at minimum, well, you have to play four playoff series in order to win a championship. That's
Right.
like what, like 20
16,
more
20.
games.
Yeah, yeah, at
Yeah.
least, yeah.
You
We
you
talking
got
about
to win
100
20 more games.
games, 100 games
Exactly.
total, little
Exactly.
plus
Like
minus.
it's crazy, man. So like when you get to that point in the season and you're as big as he is, like his joints just cannot take all that pressure.
Yeah,
It's just not,
I,
so
I definitely
that's
think
why
he
I
got
say
it.
trade him.
Yeah, I definitely think he has to have the mindset LeBron has now. I think he has to have that at his where he's at in the league right at this age, because of his body type, not being able to get up and down the floor. I mean, he's taking a pounding every time you're running alone. Like, we talk 82 games. He might be, I think he's like 26, 27. Uh just want him to be able to last a little longer.
Yeah.
But in talking about LeBron, all right,
Hmm.
is it official to say that LeBron's the greatest player of all time?
I was actually just having a conversation with my dad about this not too long ago, so it's funny you bring that up. Um, I would say as of right now, today, what is today? May 17th, 2023. I would say he's not the greatest of all time. I would still give that to Michael Jordan. I would still give it to Michael Jordan. And I've heard a lot of things over, and I see your face right now, so I know that you have other
I'm
feelings.
gonna let you have it
I
as
know,
soon
I
as you
know, I know
finish.
you are. I know you are. But see, my thing is just this. For Michael Jordan, he has six championships, right? Six championships. LeBron has four. You know,
Mhm.
championships mean a whole lot to me, a whole lot to me. So for him
Okay.
to have six and to be 6-0, now I understand he didn't always make it to the championship in order to lose in the finals. I get that.
Mhm.
But when you encapsulate everything that being a professional athlete is, I think that having, and I know you're gonna hate what I'm about to say, but the killer instinct, it matters. It definitely matters. And not Braun, but Jordan had that a little bit more than Braun. Now, what I will say before you go, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. But
Mhm.
LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time. And I think there's a difference. I think there's a
Okay.
difference. LeBron has more tools in the toolbox than Jordan. I will admit that to you. He's got damn near as many accolades. I mean, number one in scoring all time. That kind of puts him on the top of that mountain. I get it. But at the same time, greatness to me is up here, and it's also in here too, in your heart. And Jordan had that.
Listen, I think once we start, okay, I hear what you're saying. I do disagree. I think LeBron has made it to be the greatest player of all time, because I think this final the showdown between the Lakers and the Warriors really showed me that had KD not been there, LeBron would right now be at least at 5 had KD not been there. And it's no knock on Steph at all, but I really just think, and I know we can't do the hypotheticals but it's like, yo, he was playing out of his mind. Like he was playing out of his mind at that moment, and he would have won the one that he won, and he would have won the one from the year before if Kyrie and Kevin Love doesn't go down. So I think to me, even though we're not saying it's a punishment, it almost sounds like a punishment that LeBron got to the finals 2 straight. And I feel like that's not a good critique of his NBA resume, right? Like there's NBA teams that have not gotten to the finals 8 times. LeBron went there 8 times in a row. Like, I'm sorry. And he's doing at 38. If I look at Jordan at 36, it's still I don't know. It's to me,
Yeah,
I think he definitely deserves to be crowned the greatest player of all time.
it's a
Um,
good point.
I don't know. Just 20 years doing that, 25 plus points for 20 years, dog. Like that is insane.
Yeah, Jordan averaged 30 for his career, but yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of people don't count when he was on the Wizards doing come on, like,
sure. I mean,
he
yeah,
played less seasons too.
yeah.
I understand. I think though, like I will say from like 2 years ago, I think it was definitely like Jordan 1, LeBron 2. I think it's definitely like 1A, 1B. And however people slice it is their take. But that was mine. That was mine. That was my hot take. LeBron's the greatest
I
of all
respect
time.
that though. I
Yeah.
respect that. I mean, like I said, once he broke the scoring record, that kind of tipped the scales for me a little bit too. I'm like, all right, Jordan does have the six titles, but the most points scored
The
all
most
time,
points scored all
that's
time.
that's got to count for something. So I am kind of transitioning towards LeBron being the GOAT. And that's why I've said, like, look, in order to get all of the cloudiness out of my head, like, it will give me clarity if the
Mhm.
Lakers go on and win the championship this year. If they win the championship this year, I will say it. Braun is the GOAT. That's the end of discussion. But
Okay.
as of right now, May
All right.
17th, 2023, when we're recording this, I got Jordan still.
Okay. Okay. It's still
Yeah.
Lakers in 6, or has your
Well,
prediction changed?
shoot, after game one, yeah, I'm gonna still say Lakers in six. I'm gonna stick with my prediction. And I feel confident sticking with that prediction because I feel like the Lakers kind of figured it out at the end.
At the end,
You
right?
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, at the end, the first three quarters, the Nuggets were just letting them have it. But then
Mhm.
I think they put Rui Hachimura on
On
Nikola
Nicola.
Jokic,
Yeah.
and he shut him down a little bit. He only had like what 3 points in the fourth quarter. So I think they're gonna ride that game plan into the second game. and just kind of have like Anthony Davis helping down low in the paint, and hopefully that works for them. But sorry, excuse me. I
So
think that Nikola Jokic, man, we want to talk about a baller,
yeah,
and a
no,
lot of us
he's
don't get to
hooping.
watch him play because he plays on the West Coast, but he
He is
is crazy,
hooping.
man. You're talking about
He
30 points, 20 rebounds, and
yo,
14 assists as a center? Come
and he
on.
just be walking around like he just
Like
big. Yeah,
he's like the
he's
epitome of like
wild.
white man cannot jump, but
Yeah,
he don't
yeah,
have
but
to.
he go
You
hoop.
know?
He can't jump.
Right. He can hoop
He
though,
can't jump, but he can hoop. God damn
for
it.
sure.
No, that's dope. Yo, Iz, I want you to go ahead and just, I think we about to start reaching the end of the show, and I want you to go ahead and start just kind of sharing any last minute remarks about just anything. So maybe your journey, where you at now, where you're hoping to go. Are there any last minute things that you really want to share um, before we adjourn today?
Um, I guess I could just say this to, anybody out there, anybody watching, right? Uh, keep going, man. Like just keep going throughout whatever you're going through. Like if you're trying to pursue something positive in your life, like don't let anything negative draw you back. Like you have to make, like I was saying earlier, that conscious effort. Not
Mm.
only like think, like get that idea that you're gonna do something, get the idea that you're gonna execute it as well. You know,
Oh, that's different.
and, and do whatever that you got to do in order to get there. Like for me, I work a 9 to 5 job. Like I work for the government,
Mhm.
in order to fund what I do on the side, and to fund my dreams. So if you got to do that to get to where you want to be, then do that. Don't let anybody tell you that there's one exact road that you have to take in order to get to where you want to go. Find your way. Find your way. That's
Find
what
your
I'll say.
way. Oh man, that is so dope. For anybody that's seeing this, I hope that these words really resonate and connect with you. Is thank you so much for being on the Shine Collective podcast. It has been a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
not only hear your journey, see all the great things that you're doing. I'm rooting for. I'm like Lightning McQueen.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just keep doing what you're doing. And I'm gonna catch you on the
So,
flip. All right,
all right, bro.
all right, man.
All right.